Hi everyone, this is video 3 of my Intro to Creation Consciousness series. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you a little bit more information about the blockers that I find in people's fields tied to creation consciousness and their inability to hold that frequency. And so I've been anchoring creation consciousness through sessions in a lot of people's frequency fields for quite some time now, for like the last 7 or 8 months. And as I've been doing that work, what I've noticed are some common blockers to actually holding that frequency and being able to create or manifest from that place. And remember that creation consciousness is the understanding and the true knowing that we are in effect creating our entire reality, that we are able to create or birth anything into being that we choose, and that there is no limit to that creation ability. And so some of the blockers that I often find in people's fields have to do with fear, shame, guilt, and unworthiness. And of course, those are 4 categories that each of us carry. I think it is ingrained in many of us from a very young age, for some reason or another, that we're unworthy or that we have something to be afraid of or something to be ashamed of. But specific to creation consciousness, it's a little bit more complicated. Because remember, as we are starting to see this split in timelines, this split in realities that I talked about in the first video, we have a bit of survivor's guilt that goes on. Meaning we feel like if we are creating a joyful reality for ourselves where we're abundant, where we're living our passion and we're living our purpose, and there's someone else in our life who is not able to do that, or is not able to believe that they are worthy of doing that, or isn't willing to do that, we often will limit or downgrade our frequency and our ability to create in that level of abundance because we feel guilty or we feel ashamed or we don't want to leave someone behind. And so one of the greatest challenges that I see on a daily basis to people being able to hold joy and hold this creation consciousness as their truth is that they're afraid of what might happen to those around them or how they might leave them behind, and they feel guilty. And, guilt and shame and unworthiness and fear kind of all go together. They're all wrapped and entangled into one, almost into one frequency container. And when we start to choose joy and we start to choose to step into the deep knowing that we are worthy and that we can create and have anything that's in alignment with our highest joy, we worry about the reality that existed prior and who was a part of that reality and what might happen. And so one of the first things that we're going to be doing in the program is going through this idea of release and what needs to be released in order for us to maintain this creation consciousness frequency. And that doesn't mean that everybody in your life will no longer be in your life, but the attachment to the relationships and the things that exist in your life currently when you're operating from a different frequency will be released. And as that attachment is released, it opens up a lot of space for you to begin to vision forward into the void of what you would like to create. And so some of these blockers will come up in the very first module that we do together. A lot of them will come up in the very first module. And, it's really important that we understand that as we move into 2021 and further on down the line in this collective ascension process, that we literally are building a new earth in conjunction to the old earth being dismantled. And many of us have been conditioned and made ourselves smaller in order to fit into a box that existed in this old earth frequency. We knew that systems like government and religion and financial systems and education systems and different systems that existed in this third dimensional reality didn't quite fit and didn't feel right for us. But we had to downgrade ourselves in order to fit into a reality that was never really something that was in alignment. And so part of stepping into creation consciousness is being bold and realizing that what you may be building or what you may want to create in the world or the relationship that you want to have and the way you want to show up in that relationship may be counter to everything else that you've been conditioned to believe in your whole life. And that is a really bold thing, right? When we step into this idea that you can have and be a part of creation consciousness to the degree that if you're doing something that's not aligned with everybody around you, that that's still okay. That you don't need that external validation to tell you that the thing that you know is right is aligned. And so sometimes when we're building something new, people think that we're crazy, right? When we say we're going to do something that's very different than what we've always done, and maybe nobody else has ever done it, they want to poo-poo us because it shakes up their worldview a little bit to think that it's possible that you could build something new like that. And what I'm finding as we move into 2021 and beyond is that we're going to be called as way showers and light workers to step into unknown places, to step boldly forward into what we trust and what we know to be true and build from that. And in order to hold that frequency container, which is a very brave and strong container to hold, we have to have moved through the process of uncoupling ourselves from any judgments, any doubts, any shame, any unworthiness that would tell us that what we're building isn't really going to work. Right? We have to be really bold in believing that it's going to move forward and that we can create it in order to have it, in order to birth it into reality. Because if we were just going to take the old templates that existed and build the new earth from those old templates, we would just be creating more of what we're moving away from. And so if you have an idea or you have a thought or you have a way of being that feels very counterculture or counterintuitive to what you've always been conditioned in, then you're on the right track, right? That's creation consciousness. And we have examples of this in our entrepreneurs here on this planet. We have people that have always thought outside of the box. We have artists and beautiful creative types who have always operated from this. And in the past, they've always been on the fringe of society. They've always been outcasts. They've always been separated. And until somebody realizes or sees their genius and starts to comment on it and talk about it, and it becomes normalized, do they feel accepted? And what I'm going to encourage you all to do in creation consciousness is to realize that it doesn't matter if anybody else believes in your idea. If you are invested and passionate and excited about it, then it's going to come into fruition. And that deep level of trust that you're going to cultivate in this program is going to allow you to birth something really radical into reality. And radical may just look like you choosing to be happy when everybody else in your family isn't, right? This doesn't mean that you have to create some big, huge, monumental, life-changing thing for society in order to be in creation consciousness. Choosing to be happy and choosing to be in your joy and to come from a place of unconditional love is radical when things are being dismantled. And so it's that kind of enthusiasm that I'm going to help you all to anchor, but we got to get through these blockers first. So we're going to be doing a lot of work in this program on letting go of anything that would keep you from being fully invested in your creation. Imposter syndrome, fear, shame, guilt, unworthiness, all of those things are going to be worked with in this program. So I hope that gives you a little bit more insight into some of the blockers that we're going to be working through. And in video 4, I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit more about the creation cycle itself, a little bit more detail about some of the modules, and some information on some of the collective energies that I'm going to be bringing in for the activations and for the teachings, and a little bit more about how the program's going to work. So stay tuned for that video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching.